Hi, what's going on everybody? FullFrontage here. Today bringing y'all a Clash Mini video, and in today's video we're going to be going over our Season 2 tier list. Swordsman and Golden Giant did come out a little bit earlier than anticipated, so we're going to be getting this tier list out earlier than anticipated as well. But before we hop into the tier list, I want to make sure you guys know about the giveaway that's going on my channel right now. It's going to end Sunday, March 13th, so if you're seeing past this, watching this video past March 13th, then unfortunately the giveaway is over. But make sure you go check out the video in the description below to sign up for CGM. It's a place where you can get gift cards from other countries so that you're able to spend money in Clash Mini if you so choose. I will leave the link to that video in the description below. There is a giveaway form on that video, so make sure you watch the video, figure out the process to enter, and then fill out that form in the pinned comments. So that'll do that. Link in the description. Go check that out. But let's hop into the tier list. We're going to be starting with the heroes. I'm going to put the Archer Queen at the C tier. Now, the reason I'm putting the Archer Queen at the C tier is because she's still viable at level 10. And not 100% viable, but she's still a viable option. The boast is still very strong. With certain minis, she can pair up really well. So late game, like level 10, maxed out minis, she's still okay. So I'm going to put her at the very end of the C tier. I don't think she's D tier, because D tier I consider like pretty much non-usable. Like they might work in one instance and have like below a 30% win rate. So like I don't think Archer Queen is completely terrible, but I do think she's the worst hero in the current balances. So next up, we're going to put the Shield Maiden in front of the Archer Queen at that C tier. Shield Maiden is all right. She's not that great, with Monk kind of working his way into the meta. Valkyrie in the meta as well. Mini Pekka in the meta. Shield Maiden is just not going to be a good option. And then in front of the Shield Maiden, I'm going to put the Countess. I don't think the Countess is that great. I think she's okay, but she's not that great with her switch targeting to the lowest health mini. If they have a Giant Skeleton in the front line and the Countess is just going to target the Giant Skeleton after taking a lot of damage, it's really not going to be that good. Then up in the B tier, I'm going to throw the Barbarian King. I think the Barbarian King is still pretty decent. He's not overpowered. He wasn't even overpowered before, but he was just very, very strong across level 5 to level 10. So he was a good mid-level option. But I think Barbarian King found his place with some HP nerfs and some healing nerfs. So I think the Barbarian King is pretty good right there. And then for the A tier, I'm going to put the Monk and the Wave Master. I'm going to put the Wave Master above the Monk. The Wave Master is very solid option, especially at level 10 when he has the Arc Stun. He's really good, but also the Wave Master at level 5 is arguably one of the best heroes next to the World Champion, which is going to go in the S tier. So World Champion, insane at level 5, absolutely insane at level 10, is just completely broken right now. You can just completely abuse the World Champion in Rumble modes. So World Champion is the best hero in the game currently, with Wave Master being close second. And then I think Monk, especially at level 10 with that final blow on the Peacemaker, is a very good option as well. Alright, so now let's talk about the minis. I think the absolute worst mini in the game by far is the Swordsman. I don't see any viable use for him. He's just way too squishy. He dies before he can even get his super off in most scenarios. So I don't see the Fisherman or the Swordsman being completely viable. Although the Swordsman is pretty decent in raid battles, since you know where the Lava Golem is going to be placing the minis. So if you need to complete that Swordsman quest, make sure you're doing it in raids as well, because those do count towards your quest progress. So with that out of the way, I think the second worst mini in the game right now is probably the Miner. I don't see the Miner being very usable. Maybe at level 3 he'll be decent, but that's 8 elixir that you need to spend getting to level 3, when there are a lot of other minis that you could be spending the upgrades on that are way better and way more valuable than just full sending it for a Miner. Next up, for the worst mini, I think the Battle Healer is probably above the Miner, because if you're still playing early game and you have Battle Healer and they don't have a level 3 Wizard, then Battle Healer can actually be a viable option. But if you're going up against a level 3 Wizard, then it is absolutely useless. Like, there's no point in playing it in your deck. So I'm going to throw this in the D tier. And then I think one of the best, if not one of the best worst minis, I guess, is going to be the Healing Ranger. Same thing with Wizard in the meta, completely unviable. Although the speed boost on the Healing Ranger's 3rd star ability can actually be okay with the Royal Champion. So Healing Ranger is overall probably one of the worst, but is the best of the worst because of the speed buff. But it's not overpowering for her because, again, it's 6 elixir that you need to spend, which you could argue could be spent better with a lot of the other minis within the game. Next up, for the C tier, I'm going to be going with the Witch as one of the lower end C tiers. I think there's a few minis that are kind of like equal in terms of how bad they are, but I think the Witch is currently in the C tier, unfortunately. With Royal Champion being so meta, and Valkyrie being so meta, the Witch just does not work. The skeletons spawn in. If a Valkyrie kills a skeleton, the boast is activated for healing. If the Royal Champion is able to get a bounce onto a skeleton with her shield, then the Royal Champion will continue to chain her shield ability, especially at level 10. So the Witch right now is probably one of the worst C tier minis in the game, but still better than the ones in the D tier, of course. Next up, I'm going to go with the Archer. I think the Archer is not great, but she's not bad. If your opponent is not playing well, then you can get away with getting some sneaky Archer shots in onto like an Ice Wizard, onto a Dark Goblin, whatever it might be. But honestly, if there's a World Champion in the back, or some people like on the mirror map or on the shell map will place like a giant skeleton back there to catch the Fisherman. Right now, a lot of tanks happen to be in the back line, so if paired with the Fisherman as well, if something gets pulled in and something goes really wrong, your Archer is going to get completely decimated. So I don't think the Archer is one of the better minis in the game right now. I think she's probably one of the worst. Then I'm going to go with the Spear Goblin for pretty much the same reasons. He's okay if you can connect with his Clash ability, but most of the time you're going to be... The most value you could probably get out of it is hitting a Golden Giant right off the start that has a 1-star ability. So that's very situational, so Spear Goblin, still one of the worst. Then I'm going to go with the Prince. Same thing as the Spear Goblin. Clash ability, if you're able to connect with the Golden Giant, it's okay. But I think there are much better options than the Prince in the current meta. Now, let's move up to the B tier. I think... Oh, one more that I forgot in the C tier is the Musketeer. Musketeer is not that great. She was really good with the Archer Queen, but because the Archer Queen is not that great, Musketeer is not that great in turn. So I don't see the Musketeer really fitting into... very many options. Next up, at the bottom of the B tier, we're gonna go with the Barbarian. I think the Barbarian is still pretty good. Like, he's in that middle of the pack average, but he's not meta. I think there are much better options that could be meta. I don't think the Barbarian is a priority. I don't think he's bad, but I don't think he is a priority. Then we're going to go with the Electro Wizard. The Electro Wizard is actually not terrible, but it does cost 4 elixir to get really good value. You need to basically get it to 1 star, if not 2 stars, to get that Dissipate in. So the Electro Wizard's okay, but he's not a high priority mini. Then we have the Lumberjack. Lumberjack is still pretty good. With the Rage ability, he might be able to help the World Champion or the Wave Master, and he still has pretty good synergy with a lot of other minis as well, even with the Monk. So Lumberjack, I'm putting him in the middle of the pack because he's not completely terrible, but he's not one of the best at all. Then we're going to go with the Pekka. Pekka is still really good if you can get her 3-star ability. If she gets pulled in by a Fisherman and you have like a Pekka 3-star, then you're like the enemy is going to have some trouble breaking through while your front line just completely decimates. Then we have the Mega Knight. I think the Mega Knight is one of the better B tier units, if not the best B tier unit. I think his increased area spread on his super is very strong. So Mega Knight is not completely terrible, but also not one of the best. Then at the top of the B tier, we have the Bowler. The Bowler is viable in certain decks. I think he works pretty well. I wouldn't consider him an A tier mini, but I also wouldn't consider but he's like at the very top of it. He's close to A tier, I would say. And then we have the Guard sitting in that spot, and then as well as the Magic Archer. So the Guard and the Magic Archer will round out that B tier to make it overall a pretty solid place to be. Next up in the A tier, we're going to start with the Knight. I think the Knight is a very good option. Clash or his mocking being a clash ability now is really good, which puts the knight in the A tier. So if you have the knight at 2 stars at least, then he is probably going to be a pretty good cheap option for you to fit in your deck. Then next up at the A tier, I'm going to go with the Ice Wizard. The Ice Wizard is really good. He's probably the top of the A tier, and I'm not putting him in S tier because I don't want to push it over the top, but he is definitely the best A tier mini in the game by far. Then at the A tier, we have Golden Giant, which is meant to be right next. No, go in between. There we go. All right, right next to the Ice Wizard. Golden Giant, very good with the stun 1-star ability. Pretty much if you have Golden Giant 1-star, he is viable. So one of the best A tier minis. And then, of course, the last but not least is going to be the mini Pekka. Right next to that Ice Wizard, like a very close second. Dissipate is really good, but going up against like a World Champion, you might not be able to get that Dissipate off. So mini Pekka is very selective, but one of the best minis. A tier to S tier is like units that you could play that are pretty decent. Now, I'm on the fence with Valkyrie, but I'm going to put the Valkyrie at the end of the S tier. I feel like Valkyrie, Ice Wizard, and mini Pekka are interchangeable in terms of deck priority, but they all could fit in the same deck, but it's not a priority. Like Valkyrie feels like a must-have, especially when pairing with one of the best minis in the game, the Fisherman. The Fisherman is so good. It's completely destroying the meta, but you can also be completely destroyed by the Fisherman. So I'm putting it S tier because it does self-harm and also harm to your enemies. By self-harm, I mean if you miss everything with the Fisherman, it is basically useless and you just get completely destroyed because you missed everything. So it's so good that you can't not play it, but it's so bad when you miss that you have to play it, and then when you miss, you still lose. So it's an S tier mini because of how like essential it is to have in a deck, and then you miss, it's like a D tier unit. Like it's crazy with the Fisherman. Then Wizard. Wizard is one of the best minis in the game, if not the best mini in the game. Anti-heal is just so strong. It destroys everything. Wizard 3-star, like upgrading your Wizard to 3-star is actually a viable option because of longer area, the negate healing, the damage over time. It is one of the best minis in the game. Then you have the Dark Goblin. Dark Goblin is so freaking strong at level 1 because it just infinitely stacks. If your opponent misses that with that Fisherman, then your Dark Goblin is just going to stack up, rage up, and just completely destroy everybody. Dark Goblin is insane. And then I'm putting the Giant Skeleton as the best mini in the game right now. Very close to the Wizard. Giant Skeleton 3-star. If you have a Giant Skeleton 3-star, you are going to win, guarantee, 55 to 60% of the time. Giant Skeleton 3-star, it takes up the entire board. You just put it in the middle of the map and then you just let it go, right? You just let it go. Mirror map, you put it on the clone tile, let it be pulled by the Fisherman. You need to have some security blanket between your Dark Goblin and your Royal Champion. Throw the Giant Skeleton in between them. If they get the hook with the Fisherman, great, they just pulled in your Giant Skeleton. Giant Skeleton is going to die really quickly. Bomb's going to go off. You're going to stun. Royal Champion's going to get some damage. Dark Goblin's going to get some damage. Wizard's going to get some damage. Whatever you have with that Giant Skeleton, it is going to go through. Giant Skeleton is the best mini in the game, especially at level 3. If you have all 3 upgrades onto the mirror map, I did this earlier, pulled the Giant Skeleton all 3 stars, I was done in like 5 seconds. Like, Giant Skeleton is the best mini in the game. It counters Fisherman hard. It counters every deck in the game pretty hard right now at level 3. You need to prioritize upgrading your Giant Skeleton to level 3. Anything in the top row, Giant Skeleton level 3, priority. Wizard level 3, priority. Dark Goblin level 1, priority. Fisherman, unlock it. Valkyrie, priority level 3. Like, you need those minis. You could build a deck with the minis in the top row and you could probably win. You might be able to interchange out like the Dark Goblin with the Ice Wizard, the Dark Goblin with the mini pack. Like, any one of these could interchange with only one mini from that bottom tier, maybe 2, give or take, if you want to have the Knight in for the Valkyrie, for example, and then something else in. But basically, S tier is like a deck in and of itself. Like, you could get away and win with this specific deck, maybe interchanging, like I said, either Dark Goblin or the Wizard for another unit or that melee unit. It's just insane right now. Like, the top 2 rows, that's your priority for this update. So that's going to do it. That's the tier list. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. Let me know if you would change anything. I feel like B to D is like subjects, like kind of personal opinion, but like A tier and S tier is like, this is it. Like, these are the best minis in the game by far, no questions asked. Like, none of the units below could arguably be above the other, right? So that's pretty much it. That's going to do it for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more content, and don't forget to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any more videos, and I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you later. Peace out.